We're going to cover quite a lot of information. There's a lot to cover. We're already running quite far behind, as is always the way with the Google conference. So rather than talk about what we're going to talk about, let's just start talking about it. First of all, code.google.com. If you get nothing else from this conference, remember that URL. It's a brilliant URL. There's everything you could need as a developer or as an entrepreneur. We've got, I think I counted last night, it was 82 APIs and tools available mostly for free there. Probably this morning we've launched 6 more, so it's already out of date. But always, if you're building content online, if you're thinking about deploying a website, have a look at that code.google.com first and see if there are some tools that are available that can help you out. So innovation, first of all. This is a fact that always blows me away whenever I stop to think about it. The internet is less than 5,000 days old. It's kind of mind-boggling. In 5,000 days before the internet existed, and then look how far we've come now. Look at what you can do. 4 years ago, Facebook didn't exist. 5 years ago, YouTube didn't exist. And yet, I don't know about you, but I'm on YouTube and Facebook every single day. I can't imagine life without it. And so these things that appear on the web that we don't necessarily think about before become part of our daily lives really easily. Google is a search engine. Hopefully you've all used Google at least once, and that's why you're here. But the reason it became successful was twofold. One, we served pretty good results. So for people like me who were using Excite or AltaVista or Lycos or some of those other search engines, for me it became about getting great results. For my mum, it became about a clean user interface. Now, all of us in this room, we're geeks one way or another. We're in the top 1% of internet users in the world. We're on the internet every day. We check our email probably multiple times per day. Chances are we've got an internet-enabled phone. We can't imagine life without the internet. My mum, much as I love her, double-clicks links. When she goes to... Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you have a parent or a grandparent who does the same. When she wants to cut and paste stuff off the internet, or off a document, she doesn't understand the concept of a shortcut key. She clicks on edit and copy, and then edit and paste. And it doesn't matter how many times I show her the shortcut keys, she doesn't care. She does it her way, and she knows it. And it's sometimes really frustrating to watch her use a computer, but it's also really useful, because it reminds me that not everyone is like us. Your average internet user actually doesn't get computers in the way that we do. And in fact, my mum has asked me what the I'm feeling lucky button does on Google. Why don't you just click it, Mum? And she's like, I don't know, I might break something. And it's again a really interesting lesson. People are nervous of things that they haven't tried out. They're worried about breaking things. Even though the buttons are there, they're nervous to click them because maybe they don't understand what it will do. Since then, I've convinced her to click the button, and she loves it. It gets the results that she wants every time, but it took a while. The point is, behind the scenes, Google's really complicated. We've got a lot of really smart engineers working really, really hard to make it as easy as possible for our end users. And that's something that you need to think about too. You come up with a great idea, work really hard behind the scenes to make your code to make your site work well, but keep that user interface simple. Reduce the number of buttons. Make it as easy as possible for someone to come to your website and understand how to interact. Next, testing and measuring. One of the coolest things about the internet for me, I'm a stats nerd, I love data, but one of the coolest things about the internet is you get all this data. If you want to get people onto your website, using an analytics package, you can understand who's on your website. You can understand when they're coming, what features they're looking at, what they're interacting with, what sort of time of day it's most popular on your website, and so on. And this is information that until the kind of advent of the internet wasn't available. It was hard to track the number of people who came into your shop, for example, unless you had someone sitting there clicking. It was hard to know what percentage of people who came into your store bought versus kind of browsed and walked out. These days there are metrics which will allow you to analyze that, but it's still easier than it's ever been on the internet. And stats can be fun too. This is one of my favorite pictures. I shouldn't kick Microsoft, but it's almost rude not to with this graph. This is from a website called Get Clicky. They do an analytics package, and what they do is publish aggregate statistics on usage of browsers and other things. And what I love, I apologize to the guys on the right, but hopefully you'll be able to see this top bar is Internet Explorer. And it drops here every weekend when people get home and get to use the browsers they want. And so they go home, they use Firefox, Safari, Chrome, instead of being stuck with IE at work. But it's telling that, without access to this data, we wouldn't know that. And we wouldn't know that actually sometimes people are lumbered with a browser they're not so comfortable with. And this green line here, I'm excited to say, is Chrome. So it's growing slowly. Get Clicky, on that note, actually has Get Clicky. The internet's down again. Okay, so you'll have to believe me. But if you search for Get Clicky browser stats, you'll get to this web page, and they've actually got some really interesting breakout reports too. So down below mobile, they've got mobile web browsers, mobile operating systems. They've got special reports on the iPad, the iPhone, the Nexus, the Droid, and so on. So you can see which browsers people are using on the net, which ones are becoming more popular, which ones people are pulling away from. And it gives you an idea what to optimize against. You know, pick the 3 most popular browsers, optimize against those. So, analytics. How many people have a website? Okay. How many people are running analytics on it? Excellent. Now keep your hand up if you look at your analytics every month. Every week? Every day? Yeah, okay. There's no reason for you not to be looking at this stuff every day. You know, it's there. It takes 30 seconds in the morning while you're struggling with your coffee. Do it before you start reading email, and that way you won't send an angry reply to someone who's stupid. And you can just browse your stats instead. Every step of analytics, or any analytics package you choose to use. I'm going to talk about Google Analytics, but you can use whatever you want, whatever works for you. But you want to be able to answer these questions. How are users engaging with my site? How can I make my marketing campaigns more effective? Am I creating effective content? Where are people leaving my site or my shopping cart? And how do I improve site interaction? If your analytics package can't tell you that, change to one that can, or set it up so that you're getting that information. How does analytics work? It's actually pretty cool. What happens is you do a search, or you visit a click from a website. You visit your website, and there's some JavaScript code on there. That'll capture the referrer to tell you where the user came from. It'll send some information to the Google servers, which will then turn it into pretty report data, which is available through the front end. And this is happening billions of times every day. Every time someone hits a website with Google Analytics enabled, we'll track that record. And the cool thing is, because you've got the step between the servers and the report data, you can start to cut the data in really interesting ways. You can generate reports that show you results just from Google, or just from Yahoo, or just from email campaigns, or just users from the Czech Republic, or really however you want to do it. And so you can understand the data in the way that's important to you. And there are goals and navigations. You want to be able to understand when people hit key points in your website. If you're running a business, chances are there are some pages on your website which equal success. It may be signing up for a newsletter, it may be downloading a white paper, it may be buying a product. But you want to know what percentage of your users visit those pages and where they've come from to hit those pages. Maybe you're spending a lot on Google AdWords, but actually none of the people who are clicking through on AdWords are ending up on your website. If that's the case, then it makes sense to kill the AdWords campaign, right? We love your money, but we don't want to take it from you if it's not working. So it's really important for you to understand which marketing efforts are working best for you. The other cool thing about analytics is the funnel process. Now, this is the idea that, you know, when someone comes to your website, chances are they're not on a checkout on the very first page. If they are, you've got an awesome website. But chances are you sell multiple products, or you've got multiple services. You want them to browse your website, pick the one that's right for them, and then sign up and buy. Now, in any particular funnel, there'll be multiple stages. So in this case, the example is product information, then they have a look at the shopping cart, they check out, and they see a thank you page. Analytics will actually present this to you in a funnel, so you can see people dropping through from one step to the next. In this case, viewing product categories, then viewing products, then viewing the shopping cart, and finally completing the order. Now you can see at each point where people come from on the left, so how they've gotten to this key page. And on the right, if they've left, which page they left to. Now this might sound really obvious, but it can actually help you identify design flaws within your site. We had a company in Spain who sold cheap flights. And it's really interesting, they had a kind of classic left-hand navigation and then content in the middle. And they changed their design to have an extra column on the right-hand side that had special offers. And their special offers all had this kind of red box with white text in it. And you click on these different buttons and go to different special offers. Now, when they launched this navigation bar, their conversions went down 20%, and they couldn't work out why. So they had a look at their analytics, and what they realized was one of these special offer buttons was right next to the final stage of the checkout button, the pay button, and it looked almost the same. It was the same size red box with about the same amount of white text. And they just had stupid users clicking the wrong button. It was probably my mum. Sorry, mum. But that's the point. You know, users are easily confused. So all they did was eliminate the right-hand navigation bar during the checkout process, and their conversions went back up. It's really common sense. So by looking at this data, you can actually spot really obvious or simple errors that can actually improve your conversions massively. Testing. This is another really important part. Google last year did, I think, over 600 tests just to our search results page. About 250 of those went live, so just under half. We're always testing different ideas. We're always testing different features. Sometimes it might be a different shade of blue. Sometimes it might just be putting the results an extra pixel apart. You'd be amazed what a difference these things can make. Sometimes we'll slow the results down. Sometimes we'll try a completely different interface. Sometimes we'll add new features. But what we'll do is test how people interact versus a baseline. So we'll expose this test to a small percentage of our users. And if that percentage of the users converts more often, in our case, a conversion is getting them off Google as quickly as possible. If we get users off Google more quickly, then we're doing a good job. And that test will then become the default for all users. Here's an example from Picasa. How many people have used Picasa? It's okay if you haven't. Lots of people prefer Flickr or whatever. But it's some software that allows you to edit photos and videos. This was the original download page. We thought we were doing a pretty good job. We were seeing a lot of downloads of the software. But we wanted to try out some different bits and pieces. So we thought, well, let's have a look. Let's try describing benefits versus product features. Do we think that links receive more clicks than buttons? We did at the time. We thought free offers are more desirable than trial. So by saying free, we'd get more clicks. And finally, the product looks pretty cool, so let's put a picture of it up. We ran a test using Website Optimizer, which is a free Google tool, and we just compared different parts of the page. We said, well, find, organize, and share your photos versus the easy way to share and manage your photos. We had a link versus a button, and a picture versus no picture. And these were the results that we saw. So this was the original page. And this was the winning page. And it actually increased the number of conversions or downloads by 30%. Now, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're selling one product a day or 100,000 products a day, or you're giving stuff away for free. An uplift of 30% based on a few simple changes to the page is really significant. But we'd never have found that out without testing. Web page design is still in its infancy. Remember, the internet's less than 5,000 days old. No one's written the perfect internet page yet. So there's always room to test and change and try out new features and see what works with your users. But if something doesn't work, don't be afraid to take it away. Don't be afraid to pull it really quickly. Okay, changing trends. Google real-time search. Real-time is becoming more and more important. I don't know if the internet's back up. No, it's not. Brilliant. But pretend I've just done a real-time search, perhaps for GDDCZ and showing trending results. But we're trying to roll real-time results into Google search results. We realize that people are looking for real-time information at the moment. When Michael Jackson died, we actually thought we'd been hacked because of the volume of queries that came in so quickly. We thought it was a denial of service attack, and Google went down a little bit. I love that Twitter plugin. Stuff's going to pop up all the time. But the point is, we wanted to be able to return these real-time results. So now we're getting information from Twitter, from Facebook, from Blogger, from MySpace, and we're trying to roll these results directly into search results. If you've had a play with it, you'll actually see that the results stream in real time on the search results page. So by blending this information in and promoting stuff that's trending at the time, we're able to deliver results that are more relevant. Right now, if you do a search on Google, I don't know if the GDDCZ tag will come up, but if it does, it's because it's trending. Tomorrow, when it's stopped being so popular, it won't show up anymore. So we really want to make sure that we're kind of capturing what's hot right now. The other thing that we're big on is being open, and this is something that's changing over time too. Eric said back in 2008, he's our CEO, if you don't like Google, you should be able to leave. We shouldn't trap your data. You should be able to export it and take it to whatever service works for you. So internally within the company, we have a team called the Data Liberation Front. And they run around to all the different products, and they say, can I take my data out of your product? And if you can't, then they hit them with a USB stick and say, well, I want my data on this stick, and I'm coming back in a week or a month or whatever. But their point is, they want you to be able to get your data and put it into other services in an open format. And that's really, really important to us. The other thing about being open is opening up your tools and services, creating APIs. Some of the more successful services that have launched recently, things like Twitter, things like Foursquare, have APIs. Does anyone not know what an API is here? It's okay, I'll explain it. You all do? Ace. Okay, so Google also has a lot of APIs. As I mentioned, they're available at code.google.com. And I would strongly recommend you to just go check out, browse some of the services we've got. I don't want to spend too long on this, but we've got, for example, account authentication, AdSense API, AdWords API, AdSense for Ajax, AdSense for search ads, Ajax APIs, Ajax Feed API, Ajax Language API, Ajax Search API, Analytics, Android, App Engine, Apps, App Marketplace, APIs and tools, and that's just the A's. You know, we've got a lot of different services up there. So I encourage you to go and explore and find what works for you. There's probably a tool that can help your site in some way. And one of the cool things about leveraging Google technology is we're really good at scale. We're really good at helping you grow your website, whether it's using App Engine, whether it's using some of our tools just to help you scale your users and not have to worry about building another user registration system. Hopefully there's something that can help. Another changing trend is mobile. How many people here don't have an internet-enabled phone? A few. It's okay, it's fine if you don't. But see, one hand. Maybe some of you aren't putting your hands up, 2 hands, okay. But most of you in the room now have the internet on the go. It's second nature, being able to browse the web, being able to check your email, being able to find out where you are. Also, this might not make sense to the girls in the room, but in my experience, boys who have a GPS phone will also, if they're sitting on a bus or sitting on the train and they're bored, they'll pull up Google Maps and have a look to see that the GPS is where they think they are. It's a weird habit, but I'm pretty sure all of you have done it at least once. I do it all the time, I'm crazy. But that's actually driving a really interesting trend. It's allowing people to find out interesting stuff that's happening nearby. Hyperlocal is a term that's becoming really, really popular in the US and the UK, and it's starting to spread across Europe too. It's this idea of providing information very specific to your location. So not the world, not Europe, not the Czech Republic, not even Prague as a whole, but actually this area right here. There's a My Location feature on Google Maps. I'll come back to that in a second. But if you just go to Google Maps, find out where you are, and hit star, search for star, it'll bring up all the businesses and points of interest nearby that we know about. This becomes even more interesting on a mobile phone. You know, if you're out and about on your phone and you search for coffee shop or pub or just beer, you don't necessarily want to know the most popular or the best ranked pub in the Czech Republic or in Prague. You want to know one that's just around the corner because you want that beer right now. So by combining location with search results or with data, we can actually give users information that's really relevant to them. Smarter mobile phones are also changing the way we think. None of those are particularly smart. But more than 50% of 16-year-olds, at least in the UK, who are familiar with the internet, don't use it due to lack of access to a PC. They might have a PC at their library, they might have one at school, they might have a shared computer at home, but chances are they've all got a phone, which allows them to, you know, chat with their friends, that allows them to search the web, that allows them to find out things that are happening nearby and have special offers pushed to them. And your phone knows where you are. Fundamentally, phones these days have location built in. And as a developer, using HTML or through building a native application, you can leverage this. And if you can leverage this, why wouldn't you? 50% of the information on the internet is geo-referenced in some way. That is, people are doing searches for stuff around location, or the information that you're putting on the net has a geographic element. So if you can deliver more targeted information to your user, you absolutely should. It's not just limited to phones, though. I mentioned the My Locations feature on Google Maps. I don't know how many of you have noticed this blue button. In classic Google design, we make all these features really powerful, but really well hidden. But go to Google Maps. Let's see if the internet's up. Yes, it is. apps.google.com. All you do is click on this little blue button here, and it turns blue, and it should, hopefully, with a bit of luck, or not, brilliant, epic fail. Sometimes it works. No, so basically it'll use, if you're on a phone, if you're on a computer, it'll use your IP address, and it's only as good as the quality of the IP address that's coming back. And we'll generally be able to track it to country. You can see here that I think we've pretty much guessed we're in the Czech Republic. Hopefully it'll be able to do city, and sometimes it can even do street. When I was connected to the wireless earlier, I might just try connecting again quickly to show you how that works. Let's connect to Googlers. It was actually able to pinpoint us pretty accurately. Of course, it'll fail miserably again. There we go, there's a little dot. Yes. Yeah, I just tried the wired, that wasn't working. It's okay though. Does this look about, yeah, we're definitely in Prague 9, right? That's pretty good. Yeah, there, see, that's where we are, yay. Close enough. Yeah, you don't have to clap. It's really not that good. But you guys can take advantage of this with just a few lines of JavaScript. We make this available to any developer, and we'll use our geographic information to return the best location we possibly can. So again, whether the user's coming on mobile, whether they're coming on desktop, you can track to find out where they are and return more relevant information. Okay, be found. Those of you who have a website, Everyone who has a website wants to be top in Google, right? It's just a no-brainer. Not everyone can be top for every result, obviously, otherwise it'd look a really weird search page, just a whole bunch of horizontal results. But there are some tricks you can do to make sure that you're accessed and indexed better. But before we look at that, I want you guys to understand how search works. There are three main parts. One is crawling the web, two is calculating PageRank, and three, building the index. Crawling the web. What we do is go to some web pages, we find all the links we can on those web pages, and follow all those links. Thanks, Milos. What we do is crawl the web. We find links on pages, we follow those links to new pages, we follow the links on those pages, and those pages, and those pages, and so on. About a year and a half ago, we announced that we found just over 1 trillion URLs on the web. I've got no idea what that number is now, but I'm sure it's much, much bigger. But we're trying to explore content all the time, and we're always following new links. The web grows about 25% every time we crawl it, or between 10 and 25%. So there's so much new content being generated. There are all these new links being created and all this new content being created all the time. It's a really interesting challenge for us to make sure that we're returning relevant results. And then once you get outside HTML, once you start to look at Flash applications, once you start to look at Ajax applications, we can also have interesting challenges trying to understand what that page is about. But we crawl continuously. We're always crawling. It's not like we crawl once and then stop, and a month later we switch the crawler back on. We're always looking at new pages. The next part is PageRank. Now, this is the importance of your page compared to other pages on the web. This is pretty straightforward. It's basically the number of links that come to your website. A link from a big website is better than a link from a small website. So a link from the BBC is going to be better than a link from my blog. But every link is a good, well, not every link is a good link, but most links are good links. If it's an honest, natural link from an honest website out there, then it's going to do your site some benefit. So work on getting links to your website. That might be as easy as going to a forum where people are talking about the type of service you provide, answering some questions in an intelligent way, and then providing a link to your website off the back of it. Because then people will not only see a link to your website, but they'll see that you're actually a pretty smart guy who knows what he's talking about and can possibly give them the service they need. Finally, we build the index. Now, this is like building the index of a book, literally. We go through the page and we look for the keywords. We strip common words like the, and, at, of, to, because people don't really search for those. And if they do, well, they probably appear on every page on the web, so it's not going to be a great result. We then break this index up into shards and put a little bit of the index on one of many computers in each of our data centers. And what that means is when someone does a search, we can fan the search out to all these different computers, and each of them return a little bit back. And that's how we can return these results so quickly. Another interesting area, Flash. How many people have Flash on their website? Okay, a few. That's good. Only a few. That's good. I mean, no, Flash isn't a bad thing, right? Flash can be really powerful. Google uses Flash on YouTube. It uses it on Google Finance. It uses it on the Wonder Wheel feature on search results. Probably uses it on other services that I don't know about, given how quickly we launch stuff. But Flash shouldn't be overlooked. It can be a really powerful tool. But the problem is when you use Flash for your whole website. This is a Disney page, and this is what the user sees when they go to the web page. That's what Google sees. Almost nothing. Because all we see is this kind of tag that loads the Flash movie. There's no additional context. There's no additional text. We can dig into a Flash movie. We can try and extract some of the text from it. But we still can't tell a user where to go when they click on that result. In this case here, this is a rich page, right? There's a lot going on. There's navigation. There's different sections of the site. I might end up on this page as the result of a search, but I still need to do 3 clicks on the Flash to actually get to what I'm looking for. And that's to say nothing about, the whole loading thing, like wait for the thing to load, and then it starts singing at you, and your computer slows down, and it's like, where do I click? So think YouTube, or think any other video site. They do it really, really well. The only part of the page which is Flash is this element here, the actual player. The rest is text, the description, the text, the comments and responses, the text at the top, and even the title of the page. This is all text that we can extract to understand what the page is about. Doing speech to text, being able to understand what's being said in a video and extract the text strings, is still really at its infancy. It's not terribly accurate yet. So we have to rely on what people are describing on the video in order to understand what's on it. And that's actually an interesting point. If you guys are uploading YouTube videos and you want them to be found, describe them as much as possible. The more text that you put in, the more rich keywords you add to the videos, just like your web page, the better a job we'll do of returning those results. There's nothing worse than a video that just says cool. It's like, well, okay, but what's it cool about? You know, what's actually in it? You might click on it. If someone might send you a link, you'll click it. But if you're just searching, how many people have just typed cool into YouTube and been disappointed with the results? I know I have. You know, killing time on a Friday afternoon. Cool videos. No, there's nothing there. Write good content. Here are some examples of some stupid newspaper headlines. A really good example of a bad newspaper headline is the BBC. Sorry, BBC. But when the plane kind of crashed into the Hudson River and floated, they wrote a really clever headline that it's quite funny in English, and it would make sense if you read it in a paper. It was something like "Liner plunges into drink," which is fine if you're reading it, but no one's going to search for that. When you hear about this news, you go to the web and you search for aeroplane, Hudson River, crash, pilot, and they didn't have any of those words in the article. And it sounds like common sense, but if you don't have the word on the page, it's never going to return for a search result. It really is that straightforward. So every time you're writing copy for your website, think about whether or not that's a word that a user's going to search for. And if it's not, take it off. Have a separate page. If you want to have kind of glossy words and marketing talk and brand message, fine, but put that somewhere else. Get the core pages with the content that people are going to search for, and make sure those pages return. Okay, Google Apps. For those of you who are starting a business, you can either go out and spend a lot on expensive licensed software, I won't say their names, but, or you can have a play with Google Apps. Why is Google Apps good? Well, it's good for a few reasons. But first of all, let's look at the evolution of computers. Back in the 60s, mainframes. These were these huge hulking computers that sat in a room somewhere. And people had these thin clients, a keyboard and a monitor on their screen, and it connected back to the mainframe. And all the processing was done on the mainframe and delivered to the terminal on their desk. In the 70s, mini computing came out. It wasn't that mini. The computers were still this size, but they were sitting in a room, and you were actually directly connected to them, and you were doing your own processing. In the 80s, personal computers came about, and these were computers which could sit under your desk or sometimes even on your desk. And then internet access to PCs came around in the 90s. People were able to start emailing. They were able to start talking to each other and having computers communicate. Telnet, FTP, and so on. This decade, we've started to see cloud computing really coming to the fore. This is the idea of almost going back to mainframes. You do some work on your computer, but you're actually offloading some of it to the cloud. Someone else is doing some of your processing for you. And now we're really starting to see mobile internet coming around. Now, I'm embarrassed to admit, I've got a BlackBerry. And the only reason I have it is because my thumbs are too big for a touchscreen. But what's interesting about what's happening in Android and iPhone, and actually to some extent BlackBerry, is voice recognition. Being able to talk to your phone and have it do a search or understand what you're saying. Now, most of this processing isn't done on the phone. It's being sent off to a server somewhere, it's being processed, and then the results being sent back to your phone in as close to real time as possible. Your phone just doesn't have the capacity to do this. That being said, this phone is more powerful than the first computer I ran a business on, which still kind of blows my mind. So phones really are moving on, but they're still struggling to keep up with some of the technology that's being demanded of them today. So by offloading that processing to the cloud, by offloading it to bigger server farms, which are much, much better equipped to do your processing, you can leverage the power of scalable infrastructure. We'll come back to that in more detail. But what is the cloud? Well, the cloud is basically just the internet, and you connect whatever device you want to. The internet as a platform is becoming more and more popular because of things like the falling cost of storage and computing power. Moore's law says that the processors are getting twice as powerful every 18 months. Hard drives are ridiculously cheap. Broadband is becoming more and more ubiquitous, and democratized tools of production are out there. This has a camera and a video on it. I've also got a Nexus, which I use for fun, but this has got a really good video camera on it. Most people have the capacity to take a picture in their pocket and upload it to the internet almost instantly. So what can Google Apps do for you? Well, in the old days, you'd have a document, you'd share it with 4 other people in the office, One of them would write some changes, another one would write some changes, another one would make some changes, and they're all working from the original document. And some poor fellow would have to get that and merge them all back together to create the original master document. And then he'd send it back out to the 3 people who responded, who'd then make their changes in a different order. And then this guy would come back from holiday and make changes to the original document. It's like, what do? We've got to merge these things, nightmare. And it's just too much time spent trying to work out and track changes and keep everything working. Google Apps allows you to have a centralized document on the cloud. It's stored on Google servers, and people connect to it. They connect to the same document at the same time if they want. They can collaborate in real time. They go in, they make their changes, they go in whenever they want, and they change whatever they need. And whenever I hit that document, I always see the most recent version. I can track changes. I can see who's deleted the paragraph I wrote or added that comment if they've done something stupid. But the point is, we're working from a single document. We don't have to worry about version control anymore because we're working together. App Engine allows you to take this in a slightly different way. So instead of just collaborating on documents, you can actually use the power of the cloud to run your business. Hopefully you guys recognize this chap, Mr. Obama. He used something called Google Moderator just before he was elected to get questions from the general public that he was going to answer in a conference. Now, for those of you who don't know about Google Moderator, it's a question and answer system. It allows people to submit questions, and it allows other people to vote those questions up and down. We've used it at Google Developer Days in the past, so that we can have you guys pushing questions, and then everyone can vote on them. And at the end of the day, we can see what the most popular questions are to be answered by the audience. So it's kind of crowdsourced Q&A, effectively. Now, this was the traffic kind of graph for this service that they launched. And you can see when they kicked it off on whitehouse.gov, there was a bit of a spike. It went up to about 100 queries a second. It hit that again when CNN launched it. We had a link on the Google homepage that added another 100 queries a second. And then over time, as it was picked up by the blogosphere, it got up to about 300 queries a second. Over the next few hours, that dropped down again. And then just before the deadline for submissions, there was a massive traffic spike where people were going online, they were looking at the questions, adding new ones and voting up and down. And then when the town hall begins, they were back down to about 500 queries a second, and the wrap-up blog post drove a bit more traffic. In a traditional web environment, if you wanted to predict, or if you wanted to be able to make that process available, or make that server available all the time, you'd have to provision enough computers to make sure you were able to deal with the blue line at its peak. And every time the blue line isn't touching the red line, everywhere here, that's wasted money. You're paying for bandwidth, you're paying for CPU, you're paying for hardware, you're paying for hosting and electricity that you're just not using. No one wants to pay for stuff that they're not using. And one of the tricky things about the internet is trying to predict exactly how much load you're going to use. You don't know if your service is going to become popular overnight. You don't know if you're going to get slash-dotted. You don't know if you're going to go viral on Facebook. You don't know if suddenly it's going to pick up on Twitter. It's really unpredictable, and it's really tough to know how much traffic you're going to get. Google App Engine, and there's other cloud services too, right? You can use Amazon EC2, you can use Microsoft Azure, dare I say, you can use IBM have a solution coming out. But the point is, by using the cloud, by leveraging other people's infrastructure, you can save yourself a lot of cost. Now, Google App Engine's unique in that you don't actually control machines. You don't allocate services to machines. You just write software in either Python or Java. You upload it to our servers, and we'll run it for you. We'll scale it up and down as needed. And we'll give you about 5 million page views a month for free. That means that as a potential entrepreneur, if you have an idea for a business, it doesn't cost you anything except your own time to get started. Download the SDK, write some code, push it to the cloud, let it run, see what happens. And if you're not making money by the time you're getting 5 million hits a month, probably your business idea isn't the best, time to move on, try something else. But it lets you experiment for free. I tried running a lot of startups. Obviously, it wasn't massively successful, or I'd be sitting on a yacht somewhere. But the point is, back when I was doing startups, it cost you probably £20,000 just to get off the ground. You had to buy the computers, you had to buy the internet, you had to buy co-location, you had to patch your servers, you had to spend time building security systems and putting everything in place. These days, all those problems are gone. There are companies out there that will take care of this for you. So focus on the idea. If you find out down the line, once your business is working, that App Engine isn't working for you, fine, that's when you've actually got money, and you can invest in those sorts of things. But it allows you to experiment really, really easily. There's actually a really nice success story as well, 7books.com. This guy, I stumbled across him the other day. He, from 4 weeks, he went from not knowing a jot of programming to having a service running on App Engine. What's really funny is it took him 2 weeks to learn to get the Hello World app on App Engine working, and another 2 weeks to actually build his website. So that's how quickly you can advance. So if there are any non-programmers in the room, although I suspect that, because all of you know what an API is, you are programmers, you can skip the first 2 weeks. So you can get a business up and running in 2 weeks. Now, it's a pretty simple business. In fact, it's not really even a business. It's a book sharing or a book list sharing site. So you go in, you list the books that you like, and then it scrobbles them, a bit like a Last.fm. So it'll find out who likes similar books to you and then start making recommendations. It's a really nice, simple idea, and this guy put it together, not because he wanted to build an online book reading business, but because he's passionate about books. And it's really heartening to read how easily he picked up how to use App Engine. So think about leveraging the cloud for your next idea. You know, save yourself a bit of money and just focus on the idea at hand. HTML5 allows you to take these things to the next level. How are we doing for time? Okay, we've got a little bit of time. How many people have seen Wilderness Downtown? Okay, how many people haven't seen Wilderness Downtown? Okay, there's more reviews, so we're seeing it. If it's up, please be up, internet. Yes, it is. Okay, so search for that. This is an HTML5 website that's built around a song by Arcade Fire. They're using a couple of Google APIs. They're using the Google Earth API and the Street View API. And they're using HTML5, so there's no Flash running here. Please load, otherwise it's going to be very disappointing. But I like these little birds that are kind of flying around in the background apart from anything else. You know, they're just, you kind of move your mouse over them and they go, woo. I can tap dance while it's loading. We can maybe come back to that. But the point is, by using HTML5, you're actually able to build content that is easy for Google to index. And it's as rich as Flash content has traditionally been. This is going to refuse to load, isn't it? All right, we'll try demonstration number 2. Sports Illustrated. Now, this is just a kind of dummy example of how you might put together a magazine on the web. One of the challenges of building a magazine on the web has always been that, well, you know, it's kind of quite static content. And if you want it to look rich and you want it to be laid out in nice columns and you want your own font face, well, then really you have to fall back on Flash. And once you fall back on Flash, well, then it's harder to index. HTML5 lets you overcome some of those issues. You can either click on the arrow, which will take you to the next page, or just use the arrow keys to move from document to document. Let's try and go back to Wired and see if that works. No, brilliant. Okay, there is a video. If you download this presentation and click this link here, there's actually a video that takes you through the whole Sports Illustrated site. And they've got some really, really nice features that I'll have to talk about instead of show. But one of the most interesting, I think, is being able to actually lay the page out. And instead of just having images, you can have videos embedded directly in. And also the text, despite the fact that it's laid out in a kind of crazy magazine way, it's actually just plain text that you can cut and paste. And if you can cut and paste it, then Google can index it, and Google can understand what's in it. No, the internet's completely down. Okay. There's also Chrome Experiments, which show some really nice features of HTML5. If you just search Google for Chrome Experiments, it's the top result, I'm happy to report. Google's really good at searching, so I've given up remembering URLs. Just remember a search term. But search for Chrome Experiments, and you can have a play around with some of these. Google Gravity is my favorite one. It's basically you go to the Google homepage, and then everything collapses to the bottom and kind of bounces. But it's just using HTML5, so a bit of JavaScript and some divs to simulate a physics engine. Yeah, okay, internet's still down. AdSense and AdWords, then. How many people have AdSense accounts? Okay, a few of you, cool. How many people have used AdWords? Okay, cool, a few of you too. So AdWords, well, I'll come back to AdWords. I was going to do a live demo, but if the internet doesn't come back up, that's going to be tough. So in the meantime, I'll show AdSense. AdSense allows you to put adverts on your website, and will then show ads based or related to the content of your page. Every time a user sees them, you'll make a little bit of money. So the more page views you can get, the more money you're going to make. I've got AdSense running on my blog. We'll have a look at the results of that later. It's not good, but that's because no one reads my blog. But when you want to sign up for AdSense, you go to adsense.google.com or search for Google AdSense. You'll be presented with this page when you go to sign up. You ask for your website, website language, account type, country or territory. You fill in who you are, where you live, give a phone number, and tick some buttons to say that you agree with our terms and conditions. When you've done that, we'll give you a kind of view up page and say, is this the information you want to submit? You say yes. And a few hours later, you'll be sent an email saying, hopefully, that we've accepted you for AdSense. Once that's the case, you log into AdSense, you pick the type of ad blocks that you want to display on your website, and we'll give you a little bit of code that you literally just cut and paste onto your site in exactly the same way that you paste YouTube on. Once you've done that, we'll analyze the content of your page periodically, and we'll serve ads that are related to that content. So contextual ads, which hopefully people are going to click on, hopefully they're going to engage with. And if you're really, really successful, like me, you can get as much as £3.86 in a month. What happens is, so this is my blog, literally my mum and I read my blog, that's it. But the point is, you can start to, if you've got content that's actually driving views, you can start to make pretty significant amounts of money. And that's good because it allows you to fund your business. Like £3.86 doesn't seem like a lot of money, but I pay for my own domain name and it costs me, and I've got some hosting, and it costs me $5 a month. And $5 a month, coincidentally, is about £3.86. So AdSense pays for my hosting. Now, if I were actually focused on my web business, if I didn't work at Google, then I'd look to see what parts of my site were the most popular. Actually, as it turns out, internet's still down, but my most popular page on my blog is one that talks about getting contacts off an Android phone, off a Nokia phone onto an Android phone. Back when we launched the G1, I was a Nokia fanboy. I loved Nokia. But then I had the G1 and I was like, well, Google have given it to me. I suppose I ought to try it out. But I couldn't work out how to get my contacts from one to the other. And so I did a bit of digging, and no one else had really solved this problem either, mostly because Android hadn't been around long enough for people to solve it. So I wrote a little Perl script that kind of sucked the information off the SD card on my Nokia and reformatted it into Android and pushed it onto my phone. And just kind of published the Perl script. And that became quite quickly the most popular page on my blog. And if you search these days for Android Nokia contacts, it's still in the top 2 or 3 most of the time, and I still get a little bit of traffic. I think last time I looked, I got 37 hits in a week. Yay. I guess because now there are tools which actually make it much easier, and not everyone wants to, kind of run a Perl script to do it. But if I was really focused on making money from my blog, I'd look at the fact that that was my most popular page, and I'd be writing more content around that. I'd be writing more content that was going to turn up for those types of search results, because that's what people are looking for. So again, by going back to analytics, by looking at what's popular on your site, what content is being consumed most, you can actually start to drive popular features, and you can start to deliver content to your users in an effective and meaningful way. That's the end of the presentation. I apologize that the demos were unavailable. We can try and get the internet back up quickly and see if it fixes. But let's connect to that. No. Oh well. Well, come and grab me in the break if you like, and I can show you the demo. If not, just remember thewildernessdowntown.com. Go and have a play with that. It's really, really cool demo. And also Chrome experiments. Are there any questions? So I've either done a really good job or a really bad one. No? Okay, well then thank you very much. I guess it's coffee time. Oh, yes. Thank you. App Engine? So the question is, are there any legal restrictions on what types of applications you can put on Google App Engine? I would read the terms and conditions. But to my understanding, no. I mean, within reason, you can pretty much run anything. We basically start charging when you hit a certain limit. So if you're writing a really popular application, then you just start paying for it. I mean, nothing illegal, obviously. We don't want to see, well, I don't even want to say it, but we don't want to see anything that's illegal within your country. But within reason, anything you like.